even to say. And I want to explain to you a little bit about why I feel called to do this. I am the product of the promise that Texas once made to young people who started from nowhere and had the opportunity to make something of their lives. And I'm running because I want to restore that promise to every young person in Texas, every family who cares about the future of their children or grandchildren, every Texan who worries about the strength of our economy and how we'll hold our place in this world economy if we aren't creating a well-trained workforce. And yes, every veteran who has fought for us and put their lives on the line and who deserves a job and the kind of health and mental care they deserve when they return home to Texas. When I started my career in public service on the Fort Worth City Council about 15 years ago, I started with a very firm and solid promise to myself. The first night that I raised my hand in that council meeting to be sworn in, I promised that I would always be a voice for the people that I represent, and that I would never compromise on being that voice, and that I would fight hard for everything I believe in, even if I believed that sometimes it might not be popular, or even if I believed I might risk being reelected. I would be true to myself and the people who gave me the privilege of serving them. And I want to tell you a little story about how I first discovered the power of what it meant to be someone's voice. My grandfather was a tenant farmer. He and my grandmother tenant farmed in Oklahoma and in the panhandle of Texas. And they had 14 children. All of their children, of course, were expected to pitch in and help, and I would imagine there are a lot of stories in this room that can relate to that. My mother only was able to get a 6th grade education because she was expected, as her siblings were, to help on the farm. But they learned how to work hard, and they were good, solid, honest people. My grandfather had a stroke when he was in his mid-60s. It was a debilitating stroke. It left him partially paralyzed and barely able to speak. And when we would come to Muleshoe to visit my grandparents, we would always go and get him from the nursing home and bring him to his family home for the weekend. On several occasions, I distinctly remember him beckoning me to their Formica kitchen table with my skinny little legs stuck to the plastic vinyl chairs that my grandmother had. And I would sit down with pen and paper, and he would try very hard to dictate letters to me to deliver to his friends. And it was always a very arduous process because it was so hard for him to form words. There would always come a moment when he would begin to cry because I was having a hard time understanding what he was saying. And of course, because he would cry, I would cry too. And it brought home to me very powerfully how much it means to have a voice, what it means to lose your voice, and what a privilege it is to be the voice for other people who are relying on you. And in the state of Texas today, I think we all understand that there are so many voices across the state who aren't being heard. We know that our families value first and foremost making sure that our children have a good quality public education. And we know that our families value first and foremost making sure that their children have the access to higher education if that's something that they choose to do. In 2011, when I filibustered for the first time, it was to try to stop $5.5 billion of cuts to public education. looked up from my desk. These two gentlemen were there, cheering me on, fighting alongside. And unfortunately, those cuts went through in a special session, but we fought really hard last session and we got a great deal of that money restored. Still not nearly enough. Today, I had the privilege of going to Eddie Lucio Jr. Middle School with Eddie Lucio Jr., my Senate colleague, and talk to some of the teachers and administrators there about the challenges that they face as a consequence of the state not doing its duty, not delivering on its promise. I know that as we stand in this room and we look at these beautiful little girls right here, the beautiful little girls over here, we all understand our commitment to them and our obligation to them. We understand our obligation to our veterans. We understand our obligation to women, making sure that they have access to health care. And because we all understand those things, and we all understand that those voices have been left out of the conversation in Texas, I know we're going to join together to do something about it. And when I believe, what makes me believe that we will do something about it is tonight. It's 13 months before the election, and look at all of you. You're here because you believe, and you have hope, and you have a dream, and you have the desire and the ambition to make a change. And you will do it. I absolutely believe that collectively we will do that together as a team of people. And we won't do it for me. We will do it for every child in a Texas school classroom who's overcrowded. We'll do it for every person who desperately wants a job and doesn't have one. We'll do it so that communities like Brownsville will not have the label of being the highest poverty city in the country. We'll do it because we'll think about our moms, our sisters, our daughters. We'll think about what's happening to them in Texas, that they can't get equal pay for equal work because they have a governor who vetoed a bill that would do that. We'll think about the women who have lost access to health care. 11 women family planning clinics closed in this county 2 years ago because of budget cuts. We'll think about what it's like to confront the reality of not having the privilege of health care. We'll think about our veterans, and we'll remember what they did for us. And we'll know every phone call we make, every door that we knock on, every person that we talk to, we're doing our conversations and our phone calls and our door knocks because we know that Texas is the greatest state in this country. And we know that we can deliver, once again, the promise that Texas made to a girl like me. And that we will deliver on the promise, the greatest promise of all that Texas can make to us. And that is that no matter where you start, it has nothing to do with how far you can go. God bless you all.